Hello everyone, it is Mareeoh here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the latest Ninopokebros tournament, which had over 450 players. And in this tournament, a new meta development occurred, being Pincurchin is actually just won the tournament. It's really good, and for a few reasons. So guard teams, which actually haven't been super duper prevalent throughout the format so far, but there's a few around here, like you can see guard team by Mareeoh. He's actually the winner of the San Diego Regionals, was playing in this tournament, and there's a few other teams that actually would lose to Perish, such as things without ghost types. So any team without Fluttermane or Nilite really do have a hard time. Now there's not too many, but like things like Rain have a pretty hard time against Perish, things like Garg teams. Also Dondozo is it really hard loses to Perish, especially it breaks its substitute, so it doesn't even matter. And with Focus Sash you can really just sit on the field and spam protect against Dondozo. But then there's a few other cool things around this team. So there's a lot of protect going around, and especially on Amoonguss, if you're running Clear Smog and Pollen Puff on Amoonguss, you're kind of throwing the game, because especially in stuff like OTS, people can just double onto your Amoonguss, giving it pretty much no value, and you don't really want that. You want to be able to preserve your Rage Powder and Spore for as long as possible, be able to have the ability to switch in another Pokemon that might give Amoonguss its ability to do well. So this Amoonguss is running Mental Herb, and Mental Herb, since there's been a lot of Sableye running around, Encore and Disable won't be actually able to make you not be able to use Spore, and you can really just spam Rage Powder and Spore much more effectively without having to ever to worry about taunt. You also have Terra type Dark here for Murkrow. If Murkrow ever decides to taunt you, you can always Terra type Dark, and since it's Prankster, it won't have any damage on you. Assault vs Iron Hands without any actually good physical electric move is very interesting. Mainly for the reason that Wild Charge does a lot of chip damage to you, which you don't really want, especially if you want to get a lot of Volt Switch fakes out off. And also Thunder Punch, if you have things like close combat, there's never really too much of a reason to, as you're always just doing more damage. So there was never really a reason to have anything but Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam also does heaps of damage to Fluttermane, which is probably a good reason to use it too. Just Protectons and Arcanine again is very good. Also, Heal Pulse and Pollen Puff is a really, really good combo, especially when you have stuff like Palafin, which would love to switch in and out, because you can always just like go fake out, switch Palafin out, then if you ever get any chip damage, you can always just Heal Pulse. It's also really good with Perish, because if you ever need to switch out Fluttermane on the last turn of Perish for something, and you know you'll take a lot of damage, Heal Pulse can be a great way just to heal up. So very, very, very good team, and there's a few other teams I want to talk about. So this is the Fluttermane, Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Ironmoth, Brute Bonnet, Iron Hands team, and it actually did very, very well, piloted by Torviv, which is another very good player. What he decides to do is, instead of running a Moongus, he ran Brute Bonnet, and with this, he used Sucker Punch and C-Bomb, and Terra Fairy, which means you'll be doing much more damage than Amoonguss or Volcarona that it would initially do. You also get Spore, which is very, very good. But then you also can't get, I think Brute Bonnet sometimes is actually better than Amoonguss, because against Prankstermons, you can't get Thunder Waves, you can't get, like, Taunted, stuff like that. So it can be very, very good. It's just really good damage. And I think that's the thing that they really did need. They needed a bit more damage so that Dondozo could sweep in the back. And also the ability to use Substitute and not Rest and Protect instead of Rest and Chesto Berry gives you a lot more usage. It means you can survive for longer, and with the Order Up and the Orange Tatsugiri, meaning you can boost attack, it's just very, very good. Also means you can get around things like Will-O-Wisp, Spore, Clear Smog, all things that Dondozo doesn't really want to face when it's Terra Dragon, and also means you can Terra Dragon a lot more reliably. But the rest of the team is pretty standard here. The Iron Moth and Fluttermane combo is very, very good, and running Choice Scarf Tatsugiri I think is the best set. Probably better than Focus Sash, as you just sometimes do need to be able to sweep the game and sometimes outspeed things like Fluttermane, which would usually carry Dondozo. And then the next team that came third is, I'm going to run this through pretty quickly because I don't have too much to say about this, but it's another Narconacker team, but this time with Roaring Moon for the extra damage. And Roaring Moon is actually really, really good in this format because nothing can actually really KO it really quickly, especially with Terra type Flying, and it does heaps and heaps of damage. And with the ability to go with Jawlock and Narconackle, that means nothing can actually switch out of your Soul Cure. That makes it actually really, really good. And Break and Swipe also with Jawlock combo means you can go like Jawlock, and if you go Terrifying, I'm pretty sure this Roaring Moon is super, super bulky and super fast, so you always get Jawlock off. Then you can just spam Break and Swipe, and then they can't actually get much damage off. You also have Intimidate, so you can just go Break and Slide, Intimidate, and then like use Soul Cure and Cover Cloak and Moongus, which means it's actually really, really good into, like, Cover Cloak's super underrated. It's really, really good into other Narganackles, as that means Soul Cure doesn't get the chip damage on you, and also means you're immune to Fake Out. I mean, you can usually allow you to go Clear Smog and Pollen Puff, not instead of just having Protect. The rest of it's pretty good, but also there's another cool thing, Sword Stance and Protect on Iron Hands. Personally, I like Terrifier on Iron Hands and Safety Goggles, because I think it's a bit more consistent, but you do have the Safety Goggles on the Arcanine, so that probably was the best choice right here. Terrifier for the reason that you don't want to get burnt and you want the most damage out of Sword Stance. Wild Charge over Thunder Punch is also another thing I want to talk about, because Thunder Punch, you never really want to use over Drain Punch, as Drain Punch just gives you healing. So sometimes, and you can get more value out of Drain Punch, because Wild Charge gets the chip damage, which is you're nearly always healing. You can also proc Citrus Berry with Wild Charge, so I think that is the right play there. Yeah, I really do like the Draw Lock and Break and Swipe on their Roaring Moon. And then most of the rest of the teams are pretty standard. Trick Room's been popping up a lot more, and Rain is also still very prevalent, but most of it was pretty normal. More Roaring Moons, and then also Sandy Shocks. Now, Sandy Shocks is actually won a tournament a bit before, and just for the thing, that Sandy Shocks has amazing base stats. Now, it can be very, very bulky because it has an amazing HP stat and really good defense and special defense. Like, it's all very well rounded. It has pretty good speed. It can outspeed a lot of things, but it also has a really good special attack stat. But the thing is, you can run, especially with Booster Energy, you can just run all of those very, very well. Like, you can outspeed everything in the game pretty much, except in Tailwind. If you go like 2-5-2 and then not run as much special attack, as you don't really need too much, and then run the rest in bulk. This means you're very fast, very bulky. Actually, you got a very good special attack stat, especially after maybe going Terra Electric or Terra Ground. And Terra Electric and Terra Ground give you heaps of coverage, like Earth Powder and Thunderbolt are super, super good. Earth Power can hit things like Narganackle, and Thunderbolt can hit things like Dondozo, which are two very, very bulky Pokemon that you really do need to take care of. And also, you have things like Volt Switch, which are very, very good. And also Gravity with stuff like Esprada. Now, Esprada, and this is actually one that came top 3, I think, in another tournament. They were using Speed Boost Brother with like Protect, Baton Pass, Hypnosis, and Luna Crash. And the thing you can do with this is actually run Gravity, making this, like, with Photosynthesis, means you pretty much always go first. And then use just spam Hypnosis with Speed Boost and Protect the first turn. That means you just get heaps of Hypnosis off. And you can always use Luna Crash if you ever need to KO something with Thunderbolt and Earth Power. And the next thing, the reason you use Baton Pass is sometimes you need to get the speed boosters to another Pokemon, or you just want to get Esprada out of there without actually switching. And that means you can always just get, let's just say, for example, you need like King Gamp to be faster or something, then you can get like Speed Boost, and then he's super duper fast. And another thing they were using with Brute Bonnet, and then this just keeps the chain of like sleep. You can use this, get this super duper fast, and then just spam Spore. And this is an extremely good call, and I think it actually could win one of the regionals, even though it's very, very gimmicky. It's kind of like the Smeagol strategies they had back in the day. But yeah, it's a very, very good team. Terra Ground Sylveon's another thing just for Narganackle. Like, even though Narganackle's not super relevant, you still have to Tech Fruit, as if you do face it, you definitely don't want to lose this. And this does that very, very well and takes care of all the other teams very, very well, which is the reason that he did good. There's a few other teams I want to talk about. Then we have Pincurchin and Staraptor. Now, Pincurchin, unlike Torkoal, doesn't really give your opponent too much of an advantage, and instead lets you do well with your Iron Hands and stuff like that. Because Pincurchin isn't really weak to things like Flutter Mane, or if Iron Hands does get the boost, like an opposing one, it doesn't really have too much of a trouble against them. And it also has things for Iron Hands if they ever do, or like Iron Bundle if they do get the Electric Surge, like things like Flutter Mane, and also a really cool Pokemon being Staraptor, which is actually a really cool one. You have Choice Scarf and U-Turn, which means you can constantly get Intimidates off, and you also have Final Gambit, and Final Gambit can be very, very good into things like Iron Hands, of course, and just other Pokemon in general. That's a very, very cool team, and I think Staraptor should pop up a lot more. I think you should definitely try it if you haven't. This is one of the cores. I don't think he was using he was using it. So this is one of the gravity hypnosis Aspirala ones. This came top 10, I think, and it did very, very well. Serena is also very cool because this means you can't get faked out, and also it's Terra-type Ghost, which means you can't get faked out. So it's very good against Iron Hands, and just the ability to go Hypnosis and Earth Power and Gravity and Lumina Crash is a really good combo, really, really good combo. And the next thing I want to talk about is how Stonejourner got top 32 twice. Now, Stonejourner is very good with Dragonite, as you can just use Extreme Speed, and with Power Spot, you can nearly Oko Iron Hands, you can Oko Gastrodon, you can also Oko things like Hatterene and do heaps of damage to Torkoal. I think after a Fake Out, you should be able to KO it with Iron Hands. It just gets the job done, especially if with Fluttermane. Fluttermane might need some more damage, and it really does do the damage. Sometimes Gastrodon might need to do a bit more damage to Arcanapple, and it just helps with that. Guard's also very good for things like Expanding Force from Armarouge, and so on and so forth. Things like Dazzling Gleam for Fluttermane, Hyper Voice from Sylveon, which you might not want to face for Dragonite, and this Stonejourner and Dragonite, very, very good combo. And I'll try and find the other team. Yeah, and here, top 37. But yeah, another one with Dragonite, Extreme Speed, and Focus Sash on Stonejourner, and it's just extremely good combo. You can even do more damage with Roaring Moon, which I'd recommend, because if you want to run a bulkier set, you can use Power Spot to get that extra damage, and then Wide Guard to stop things like Dazzling Gleam and Hyper Voice from things so pesky Sylveons and Fluttermanes. Then you have Break and Swipe and Snarl just to do. It actually does a lot of damage with Power Spot. Like Break and Swipe probably Okos things like Garchomp and does nearly Okos things like Dragonite, and it would easily two-shot. Like Snarl into Break and Swipe would probably one-shot a two-shot Dragonite. So that's really, really good. There was also a team, that's Plus One was using, and it had a Curse and Nillape, and Curse and Nillape was very, very good into things like Dondozo, and also with Final Gambit. It also uses a slower Nillape with Choice Scarf, and he used Beat Up with it. So it was slow Choice Scarf and Nillape, which means you can run heaps of bulk and heaps of attack, and that means you can go both speed, attack, and HP, which is probably more well-rounded. And then Beat Up and plus Rage Fierce is just a really, really good combo. Torkoal and Lilligant was also pretty good for him, but I probably wouldn't advise it, because sometimes with Choice Specs Torkoal, you really do need Protect in open team sheets, because they could just double into Torkoal, and since you didn't have too much redirection other than Mareeoh, which can just get faked out, you really could just go Fake Out, KO the Torkoal, and then just win the game. So takeaway from this tournament is probably use a lot of Protect. On your Minxes, use Protect. On your Arcanines, use Protect. If you can, use Protect on your Iron Hands. Things like Stonejourner is actually way better than we thought. Standing Shocks is way better than we thought. Dondozo with Substitute, you really do need that to win the games. And, Perichon busted. Before I end the video, please subscribe. And big announcement, I'm going to start a series called Guess the Elo. You might have heard it from a person called Gotham Chess, so please put your replays in the link of the description, and I'll try and guess your Elo. That would be a pretty fun series, and I can also teach you guys how to play the game from watching them and how to get better. It will be all good. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.